Hi everyone, I just wanted to do a small video about Neville Goddard's teachings and getting back to the basics. Basically, I'm going to start with the chapter 1 of creative use of your imagination. The purpose of Neville's talks is to bring a psychological change in you, the individual, to understand how we go into these different psychological states or emotions where they warp our perception. Our emotions warp our perception of what's around us and what's in us, and how we can take control of that by using our imagination. How we can change our outcomes, how we can change the past. Yes, very interesting. But to have more control, for me, it would be more control of my future, because I don't want to live in fear of not knowing what's going to happen to me, or not be able to control certain outcomes or situations. But if I do take control, I become this crazy person, which I don't want to be. And thanks to Neville Goddard, who teaches you that your imagination is powerful. He calls it God. There's other names for it, energy. And don't let the words God or Bible or some references to biblical accounts scare you, because it's not about history, it's about a psychological drama. And Neville just uses the biblical stories, allegories to point that out, how we as humans have this huge psychological drama that happens in our mind, in our consciousness, and how that can determine the circumstances of your life. Yes, your consciousness is the only reality, meaning that if you believe it's real in your mind, you're going to believe it's your reality, and it's hard to change, and you're going to act upon it, right? Your perceptions are going to change about certain situations, and Neville teaches you how to take control of that and have better outcomes. Of course, for the better of others and yourself as well. So he talks about the state of the individual. If the individual admits a type of state, right, or a feeling, let's say anger, fear, if you admit that into your consciousness, and that's the cause, that would be your cause, right? And then you're going to be stuck in it, in that state or in that feeling. There's an example of the poor man admits to being in the state of poverty by saying, I am poor, just as the rich man admits by saying, I'm wealthy. And anything you as an individual claim yourself to be, for good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong, happy, sad, fulfilled, rich, loved, sad, or poor, it must be made manifest in your world. Meaning it has to come to life in your world. You're kind of attracting it, or in other words, to be specific, you're creating it. When you admit to being a certain way, you're going to attach yourself to it, and it's going to show up in the outer world. And claiming the feeling, the state you have, you basically consented to its life. You basically gave the okay for it to show up, to manifest itself into your life. Therefore, your consciousness, your feelings, your thoughts have that power. You are, by imagining those things in your mind or in your feelings, you feel fear, you're consenting to it. You're saying, sure, yeah, fear, yeah, come on in, bring more of it in my life. But don't let that scare you or deter you from wanting to learn more. This is pretty phenomenal, and I have lots of practical stories, examples in my life. He taught me that I'm responsible for the outcomes in my world. Yes, it really humbled me. It humbled the way I think. I had to rethink what I imagined, how to deal with the situations differently instead of reacting on a whim, being mad or angry at a certain situation. I had to really teach myself how to act differently. It made me become more calmer person and not frustrated as much. I'm still learning, just like you. I'm a student. I'm learning to practice this more and more, and bring good change into my world as well as others. And what Neville really wants you to understand and live from is that your consciousness is your cause. Your consciousness, your inner voice, your mind, whatever you call it, it mirrors what state you're in, right? If you're in a state of being sad or unhappy, it's going to mirror that. Your outer life is going to mirror that and send it back to you. And I definitely don't want that. And there's an easy way of how to avoid this, right? So he talks about now a state can be defined as all that you believe and consent to as being true, right? So if you believe it, you consent to it. I'm sure you have stories of terrible stories of your mom, especially grandmothers, or things in your life, examples that you believe this and this is going to happen, and then it happened and you're like, oh my God, that's so freaky. Well, yes, that does happen. What you ask for or what you consent to, it is going to happen in your life. So if you want your world to change, you must determine what you want to accept and consent to as true before you can change it. So consent to it, right? By not thinking about the bad things, think about the good things. So you have to, he talks about, you have to begin to uncritically observing your automatic reaction to an event, right? Like I said, I would react to something on a whim or right away and not thinking about it, and I would bring more of it in my life. And boy, that happened to me last week. It was kind of gross, and I don't want any of that in my life. I reacted towards a situation, kind of focused on it a little too long, and it brought more of it in my life practically 2 days later. And I definitely don't want that. And instead, you're going to learn about revising the situation. Even that second, you can revise that same situation from a bad situation, make it into a beautiful in your mind, in your imagination. You're going to consent to it. And then later on, you're going to receive the same situation, only much, much, much better, or in a better light, of course. And he talks about even without getting out of your chair or doing anything, just in your imagination, just takes a few seconds, and you can definitely revise that. But don't criticize yourself. Don't criticize the situation. Don't criticize the way it happened or other people. Because the more you criticize, like I did last week, the more I focus on it and the more I brought it into my life. And I definitely don't want to do that. Be willing to admit that the circumstances are only objectifying what you are conscious of. I was conscious of someone being negative. Boy, did I have a big bowl of negativity the very next day from someone else. It was really gross. Then change your consciousness, and your world will change. Sounds easy, right? Right. It's not that hard. It's really practical and easy. It's just takes a little while to understand the way it works and put it into practice. And it's free. It's easy. Anyone can do it. Teach your children to do it. If you have little kids, they have beautiful, untainted imaginations. If I had a preschool, this is what we'll do every day. We would imagine their mommies and daddies having great jobs and not coming home stressful and angry and upset. That's what I would teach the little kids in school, and have them have drawing lessons, and draw mommy and daddy happy. Well, I'm getting off topic here, but you know what I'm saying. And if you do have a little preschool thing, hey, maybe those little kids would imagine you doing better and better and draw drawings, and it will happen in your reality. Pretty cool, I think. So that's the wonderful, beautiful thing in Neville Goddard's teachings. You can find and hear more of him on the Nevolution channel, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube about the way we use our imagination. And this was from chapter 1, creative use of your imagination, and my take on it. Take care and imagine well.